Take a breath in, and as you let the breath go, allow your shoulders to drop. Feel your spine strong and straight. And with each breath, in and out, ground into your body. Feel your feet on the ground, your legs, your hips and pelvis, your belly, your spine, your shoulders relaxed, your head upright. I'm here. I'm here now. Just under Ireland's skin, in a shallow grave, is a wound so deep it runs to the core of this land. It's filled with red pain, suffering, shame, hate, fear. It runs throughout the whole country, silently touching every man, woman and child. It is a wound torn through hearts by a people who for centuries have been told that who they are is wrong, who they are is not good enough, who they are is bad. They were told this by the rulers of the land. They were told this by the church. They were told this by their communities, teachers, friends and neighbours. They were told this by their own mothers and fathers until they believed this story, until it was the truth.
You are seen, you are heard, and you are loved.
For the futures that never were. For the joy, love and laughter that never was. Remembering those precious babies. They brought out such humility and love and sharing, all in their memory. I hope people continue to learn how important it is to start loving and stop judging.
May your beautiful souls fly free among us, that we never forget you, but become a truly compassionate human community.
Your memories are not lost. We carry you in our hearts and our history.
For every soul, living and dead, affected by this devastation, may they forgive us as a nation.
We see you today, little ones, as we hold these dolls in our hands. We hold and take you into our hearts. You are seen, little one. You are much loved. Your life is precious. Today we honour you and promise that we will not forget you. We will sing songs for you. We will write stories in your name. We will seek truth and justice. And we will wish for you, now and always, peace as you sleep.
You gentlemen, welcome. I thank you so much for being here this evening to mark and celebrate the launch of the Bábóg Project's online exhibition. This exhibition has been the work of many people over many months. My name is Laura Whalen. I've had the honour of being the curator of the Bábóg Project since it began in November 2018. And this evening, I have the honour of acting as host for this online launch. What you have just seen is a beautiful film created by Zuka Films of the laying out of all 12,000 dolls that were sent to the Bábóg Project. This film forms a central part of our online exhibition, which is available to view on our website, www.thebabogproject.com. Although the ambition is still to create a live exhibition of this incredible body of work, I'm so grateful that Eventi, the creators of this website, have facilitated a way that we can bring this work out into the world, a way that allows everyone to view it no matter where they are. I would now love to welcome Sinead Dunphy, Managing Director of Eventi, who is going to walk us through the online exhibition and officially launch it. Sinead, welcome.
Thanks so much, Laura. I'm hoping everyone can see their screen okay, and we see the first moment of the Bábóg Project website come to life. I want to make sure that it's easy to navigate, and we're open at Eventi to taking any feedback if people need help understanding it or to getting it around it. So the video you've just seen is available. If you just simply click on the very first page, you are seen. And, oh, sorry, this is the book. Typically, I'm going to get it wrong. And we will go into this in a little bit more detail. So when we look at that, you know, we want to be able to make sure that everything is represented, and the video is here as well, just if you want to be able to see it yourself, and it will come through as a link. So I'm just going to bring it back to the website again. On the website, which is not happening right now, we also have a small audio collection happening as well, which of course is not working, obviously. I do apologise, Laura. Typically, technical issues happening. So I'm going to go straight back to the book and just show you a little bit of, I suppose, how we laid it out and how we wanted to make sure that every Bábóg was represented. And not only that, but the words that people sent in. Some people sent in a simple word, one singular word. Others sent in numerous poetry pieces, quotes, their own personal stories. And I think that's what today is about. And I think that's what the website is about as well. So as we go through, you can actually see from the very beginning of the project where we learned how to create a Bábóg doll, but also going through to the many, many dolls that were sent to Laura in this just awe-inspiring project. The numbers are huge, as Laura mentioned, which had started out to represent, you know, in comparison now, a huge amount of lost souls and, you know, affected souls. But here we are, and we've over 12,000 dolls here, and they're all represented in this book, and hopefully you'll be able to, I suppose, appreciate it in your own time. What we've also done is actually allow that you can download it, and that is simply very much down here at the bottom of your screen, and you can download the PDF. So you can take your time. You're not expected to be online for the entire thing. You can view the book at your own time, in your own way, in your own reverence, and be able to see that for everybody that took part in this project, in whatever form that may have been, that you're not alone and these babies aren't alone. And I think that is very clear from everything that's here on this website. So Laura, I'm going to hand it back to you because nobody wants to hear from me. And just very briefly, I'm going to just do a Hello, this is me, just so people can see my face. And I'm going to just stop the sharing and I'll hand it back over to you, Laura. And thank you so much for allowing Event to be part of this project.
Oh, Sinead, thank you so much. Such a wonderful job. We have a number of speakers this evening who are going to share with us their experience of the Bábóg Project, what it has meant to them, and how it has affected them both personally and professionally. We'll hear poetry and music, and we will share in a moment's silence together as a mark of respect and remembrance to all those affected. And for the moment's silence, I'll invite you to light a candle, so please have one ready if you choose to do so. I would like to begin this evening by giving you a brief history of the Bábóg Project. But I've been a doll maker for over a decade now. In the summer of 2018, I was asked to make a tiny doll in remembrance of a little boy who had been born in one of Ireland's mother and baby institutions and who died shortly after. I was so moved by the process of making this little doll for him. I was inspired to make a doll for each baby who died as he did. At this time, the estimated number of babies that had died in Ireland's mother and baby institutions was 6,000. And I realized I would never be able to make 6,000 dolls on my own. And so the Bábóg Project started. It was an invitation for people to take a few hours out of their lives, to sit and make a tiny palm-sized doll, giving them the opportunity to sit with the memory of this little person and their own feelings. The Bábóg Project touched the hearts of many, many people. National press took an interest in the story and helped spread the word. People from every county in Ireland sent dolls to the project, men, women, and children. Generations worked together, sitting around the kitchen table, talking about the mother and baby institutions, about motherhood, about loss. Friends worked together, knitting and crafting groups created hundreds of dolls. Transition year students made it their project. Dolls arrived from all over the world, common threads connecting them all. Dolls were made by people from all walks of life, from all backgrounds, by those directly affected by the mother and baby institutions, and by people who had only just heard of them for the first time. Every doll that was sent to the project was photographed, and this picture, along with any words written on an accompanying note, was shared on the Bábóg Project Facebook page, and which has now been made into that beautiful book Sinead was just showing us. By the closing date of the 2nd of November 2020, the project had gathered a staggering 12,000 dolls. A few weeks later, a small group of women gathered on the land in West Cork to lay all 12,000 of the dolls out together. It was a beautiful and moving day, so beautifully captured by Zuka Films as you have just seen. Before we move on to the rest of the evening, I'd like to share a short poem with you. It is an adaptation of the poem that I wrote for the very first Bábóg Project workshop that I held, and which I read as an opening to every workshop that I gave. Just under Ireland's skin, in a shallow grave, is a wound so deep it runs to the core of this land. It is filled with red pain, suffering, shame, hate, fear. It runs throughout the whole country, silently touching every man, woman, and child. It is a wound torn through hearts by a people who for centuries have been told that who they are is wrong, who they are is not good enough, who they are is bad. They were told this by the rulers of the land. They were told this by the church. They were told this by their communities, teachers, friends, and neighbours. They were told this by their own mothers and fathers until they believed this story, until it was the truth. Just under Ireland's skin are graves, wounds so deep they run to the very core of this land.
They're filled with babies. Tiny bones stacked on tiny bones. Silent screams and tears stain the cheeks of this land. Carrying this wound is Ireland's agony. In our hearts, we opened this wound. In deep love and respect, we reached in and took each little baby out, one at a time. We made a doll for that one baby. And as we made that doll, we held that baby in our hearts. Our tears washed their tiny bones and we whispered, "We're sorry, we're sorry, we're sorry. You were good enough. You were enough. You were good." We did this thousands of times, thousands and thousands and thousands. As we stitched stories rows, our own stories released, mingling with the stories never told, never heard, stories of grief, of hurt, of betrayal, of love, of hope, and the deep, deep pain of loss. From all over the world, we spun our threads together, a web to hold us all, where nobody is left out, shamed, or cut off, where we're joined together in our common grief, our common humanity, our common love, where we can say to each other across time, across oceans, across generations, "I love you and I care." We tended to this wound and allowed what needed to rise to the surface, no longer hidden, no longer buried, never forgotten. I would now like to welcome our first guest of this evening. Her name is Terry Harrison. As a young woman, Terry was taken from England and brought to Ireland and held in Best for Mother and Baby Home in Cork, from which she escaped. Afterwards, she was placed in St. Pat's on the Navan Road, where she gave birth to her son. Good evening, Terry, and thank you for being here with us all. Would you like to introduce yourself and maybe say a few words and maybe what the project has meant to you?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Laura, and everybody involved in the whole of this project that's been going on for quite some time now. And what really, really touched my heart was the fact that people from all over the world, mothers and daughters, friends, shared something together by making each doll and making it mean something. It symbolizes so much. When I saw them all in the poster, it really overwhelmed me. My son could so easily be in that picture, but he is alive. But so many of us never found out where our babies were taken to or what happened to them. We were threatened by the police if we dared to even search for our children. And we were recorded as, I was recorded as my first criminal act, first offence. Me, a life giver, a mother, a new expectant mum, very happy in England. And then suddenly I'm on a plane paid for by the Irish state and incarcerated in a prison. I think it's the nearest thing to a prison camp I can explain to people what it was like. Can you imagine how the unborn baby, all the injuries that happen to a mother while she's carrying her unborn affects her unborn? And today they talk about redress and new bills and access to information, when all along it's been a crime against humanity. And that's what it has been. And your project helps so many people to learn more about it. And you're helping to keep the conversation alive, one that they would rather kill for the last 7 decades, for the last 30 years they've known. And they couldn't put their hand up and say, you know, how can we help you? You know, it's so hard to fathom in this day and age. Recently and currently, we're all very aware of violence against women. this was violence against women, and this was violence against babies, innocent babies, who many that lived are still suffering today. And thank you from the cockles of my heart for doing this. And I know I speak for a lot of the mothers, some still terrified of speaking aloud what happened to them, and that saddens me greatly, because the audience that you talk to, I always say, know your audience, and people who love you will open their arms and ask you how you are, and people who are in denial about it, or rather it go away and get over it, life goes on. Life doesn't go on for us. I call it the living bereavement. It's a loss that you have every day of your life that has no closure. And for the many women out there tonight, across the world, not just in Ireland, that's affected by this, I say to them, stay strong, keep your heart, and know they could never take your genes out of your baby. They live on. They live on in our children. And for all of those babies, especially the ones in Vesper and other places all across this country, all the places they've sold, gone. You know, I have to say to them, the little angels, you will one day find your mammy's arms again. You will. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for being with us this evening. Really appreciate that.
Thanks.
One of the things that I've noticed about the Bábóg Project is this constant play between the micro and the macro. So the micro is like the detail and care put into each tiny stitch of each doll. And this plays against and fits into a much larger macro picture, like the picture of 12,000 dolls together, like one person working on a doll alone in their home and thousands of people working together on a project. One person's individual experience of the project and the larger impact of the project. So to give us an idea of the larger impact of the project, I'd like to welcome our next speaker, Jennifer Moran-Stritch. Jennifer is a lecturer and researcher at Technological University of the Shannon Midwest, and her work focuses on the impact of the Bábóg Project as a personal and public expression of grief and memorialization. Jennifer, welcome and thank you for being here. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience of the Bábóg Project.
Well, thank you, Laura. I have to start by saying that in so many ways, I feel both kind of honored to be included, but also deeply unworthy of bearing witness to all of this, especially after hearing Terry's just powerful testimony around this. From the moment that I kind of came across the Bábóg Project on Facebook, I have been struck by it. And I've had conversations with Laura around this. I just find it so deeply moving, not only in its sort of like simplicity and the organic way that it's grown, but also its worldwide reach. The fact that it is this, is this crafting and this activity among groups of people, among individuals that you described, Laura, in your introduction. So I just really want to be able to say, my heartfelt congratulations on the launch of the website, and really, I want to express my thanks to you, Laura, as really being kind of the guiding force here. Sinead used the word awe-inspiring earlier, and I think that it is so fitting about all of this. And I'm just so glad now that there's a website so it can reach a wider audience. I think the Bábógs, the Bábóga, are like a Rorschach test, those ink blot tests of kind of random ink blots that people can look at and see what they need to see, or see what comes up for them. And I think for people, it can be a Rorschach test of grief. And for some people that look at the Bábógs, it will be very deeply connected to whatever their connection is to the mother and baby homes, that the atrocities that occurred here in Ireland. And for other people, it would be that they see like their own very personal loss that maybe is totally disconnected from that. And it's represented in just a form of gentleness that really underlies kind of an outrage that I think all of us have at the inaction of people that allowed the mother and baby homes to go on, at the dereliction of duty by government leaders, by religious orders, by people who were powerful within communities, by regular Irish people in a lot of ways, and as was mentioned earlier, you know, by our own families in many ways. I think that there are so many motivations for people to contribute to the Bábóg Project, and I know that there are so many people, you know, listening in tonight and present here that would have made contributions, and like their motivations for contributing to the project really lay outside of like being disruptive or being destructive or getting some kind of vindication. Their motivations are more about what is intimate, what is uniquely and definitively feminine about all of us, what is soft, what is vulnerable, what is homely, what is a voice that is filled with empathy that can transmute anger and shame and really shine a light on the dead that are hidden under this nation's skin. And that these children and their mothers are worthy of being grieved and remembered. There is so much more that I could say, you know, both personally and sort of as a professional researcher into grief, but like the one thing that sticks with me is words that Laura shared with me from an interview that I did with her last summer. So I'll just leave you with that quote. They were placed in enormous mass graves, but these babies were not less than, and no one can tell us that anymore or tell us not to grieve. Each doll is an individual, which stops it from being a homogeneous mass of the unknown. There are so many little bones knitted together in the ground. Our job is to unpick them and to make a doll for that one baby, one at a time. And as we make that doll, whisper, I am sorry and I love you. I know, I think, I hope, but I am confident that the Bábóg Project will leave an indelible impact on anyone who witnesses it. So thank you once again, and congratulations on the launch of a beautiful project.
Thank you so much for sharing. That was really beautiful. We would now like to share with you a short video sent to us by Catherine Corliss. Catherine, called by Taoiseach Micheál Martin a tireless crusader of dignity and truth, is a historian known for her work in compiling the information concerning the deaths of children at the Bon Secours Mother and Baby Home in Tuam, County Galway, and working ceaselessly for truth and justice.
I'm delighted to have this opportunity to thank Laura Whalen for coming up with this wonderful project. It's a most beautiful idea, and she got so many people on board, and it gives me great heart to know that there are so many people out there who wish to do something about the plight of these mother and baby homes. What Laura came up with, she asked people to make little tiny dolls that they had to fit in the palm of your hand. And you could make them out of whichever you wanted, out of wool, out of material, whatever. And the ideas that people came up with were extraordinary. Everyone created their own little doll. So she's putting this, she wants to travel the country of Ireland with different exhibitions, but because of COVID, it went against her. But now she has come up with a brilliant idea of putting them up online. And I wish her very well, and I know that it will be extraordinary when we see this little video put together. So I just want to say thank you, Laura, for remembering all the babies. And as regards my own research, our campaign still goes on, that all those babies will be remembered, and especially in Tuam, where babies and children were unfortunately discarded into a sewage system which contained a tank and its many chambers. But it's heartening to know, and thank you for all the people in Ireland who contributed to this project, because it makes a world of difference to know that people care. And that's the one thing we need. The babies must be remembered. They were there, they were on earth for a little while, and it's a great honour to remember them this way. So thank you, Laura, and everyone who contributed to this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. As I mentioned in my introduction, the inspiration for this project was a little boy. He was, in fact, the little brother of a dear friend of mine, and I would like to welcome her now. Beth Wallace was born in Ireland's oldest and longest running mother and baby institution. Her brother Stephen, also born in one of the homes, died at 5 weeks old, and this year he would have been 50 years old. Welcome, Beth.
Thanks, Laura. There's a well-known quote. I looked on Google to see if I could find the name of the person to attribute it to this afternoon, and I couldn't. It says, "Speak your truth, even if your voice shakes." This is my truth, and my voice is guaranteed to shake at some point while I'm sharing with you this evening. In the few minutes that I have, I'd like to share 3 very short stories, super short stories. The first is a story that Laura has already briefly spoken about, which is the conception of the Bábóg Project. It happened on an evening after some delicious food. Myself and Laura and another friend were sitting in front of an open fire in my house in West Cork, and I believe there was chocolate. And I shared the story for the first time with these 2 friends of myself and my brother Stephen and my sister, and how we'd all been born in a mother and baby institution. And after the conversation, Laura offered to make me a doll, and she made me a little Beth. And I was so deeply touched, and it touched a very old, very small, very young part of me, that I asked her if she would make dolls for my sister. And this is my sister's doll. And I asked her to make a doll for Stephen. So Stephen died when he was 5 weeks old. I'm not sure if you can see him well, maybe the light is too bright. Stephen died when he was 5 weeks old, and he lies now in an unmarked mass grave. I tried for almost a year to have Stephen's grave honoured, acknowledged, to buy the plot, to erect a memorial on it. And every effort was halted by Dún Laoghaire Rathdown Council. And that was devastating. I thought that the only way that he could be remembered, the only way that we could find resolution, an ease, a balm for our grief, would be a memorial on that gravestone, on that grave. I was wrong. The Bábóg Project, those 12,000 beautiful dolls made with such love and intention by so many people, from Australia to Alaska and everywhere in between, have meant more to me than I think a memorial on his grave would. His short life is still a secret to many members of his family. There are still many siblings that don't know he even exists. And what happens when the truth lives in darkness, when it lives in silence and secrecy, is that it becomes shame. When we tell the truth of our lives in the open, when they're heard, when the stories of those lives are heard in a way that isn't judged by people who have no agenda, that, I think, is a very powerful healing medicine. And that's exactly what the Bábóg Project has been for so many people, including me. It's been a place where our stories can be told through the doll making, through the doll stories, with no agenda, with no judgment, with no criticism. And that's been a powerful healing medicine. I cannot thank everyone who's made a doll. There's a shake. I can't thank you enough for giving us and for giving every individual affected by this chapter of Irish life that hearing, that listening, that love, that attention. And I want to finish with an invitation. And my invitation is, if there is a story like this in your family, in your community, find it out, share it. I lived in Clonakilty in West Cork, which is how I know Laura, for 18 years. I lived a stone's throw away from the county home where many babies were born and died. And in that 18 years, I never heard the county home spoken about once. We have to bring these stories into the light. We have to bring them into the light without judgment, without agenda, so that we can finally, as a people, communities, families, and individuals, be free of the shame that has shackled us. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you for being here and thank you for sharing. I would like to invite you all now to join me for a moment's silence, in remembrance, in dedication, and in love. If you'd like to light a candle, please do so now, and we shall share 1 minute of silence together. Thank you. This piece of music is composed and played by Terry Harrison. It is called Stolen Innocence.
Hi, I'm going to play a piece that I wrote a number of years ago, and it's all about how innocence can be taken away. The innocent babies, the innocent children, the innocent teen mums, expectant mums, and how you never ever get it back, and you have to learn to live with the hurt and the pain. So I hope you can hear what I try to pour into my music sometimes is where I can't really express the depth of our pain. It's called Stolen Innocence.
beautiful, Terry. Thank you so much. This launch is now drawing to a close. We will finish here shortly. And I invite you please to go on and visit our now newly launched website, www.thebabogproject.com. Take your time, take it in, breathe it out. And if you've been affected by any of the content, can I please direct you to the supports page and remind you that you need never be alone. Please reach out if you need to. I'm so proud to be here this evening. It's been a long and not always straightforward journey. I'm so proud to have been part of this incredible project that touched the hearts of so many. I'm so proud to be a person amongst so many people who care and who take the time to show that they care. I'm so grateful to the many people who have made this project happen. And I'm so grateful to those that have made this exhibition happen. And I'd like to take the time to thank a few of them now. I'd like to thank Sinead Dunphy and her team at Eventi, who not only hosted this virtual launch, but have created the entire online exhibition and have given me so much support and care over the last year. I would like to thank this evening's speakers, Terry, Jennifer, Catherine, and Beth. Thank you to Matt and Nolik, Zuka Films, for the creation of the laying out film and their constant support. Thank you to Deirdre Archibald Hayes for the creation of the background music for the exhibition. Thank you for all the support from Clonakilty Community Arts Centre, and in particular Lorraine King Marshall. Thank you to the ladies who participated in the laying out of the dolls, the counting of them, and the caring for them. Thank you to every person who made and sent a doll to the project. Your work is so gratefully appreciated. Thank you to everyone who has contributed to this project in any way, through writing, song, poetry, sharing, and caring. I would like to thank my 5 children for sharing me with this project for the past 4 years. And to you, thank you for taking the time to be here this evening, for witnessing the bringing out of this work into the world. Thank you. And I would like to end this evening with the Ho'oponopono prayer. This was offered by a participant at one of the first workshops that I ran, and I've ended each one with it since. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Thank you, and good evening.